Well, this may surprise quite a few people that we are back. The Variety Hour podcast, we have resumed transmission, as they say, and for the literally dozens of people who wanted us back and have taken to Twitter, we have been on a bit of a break, so we are back. I'm Sergio Paradise, and this great man here is Titus O'Reilly.
Oh, good to be back with you, and
Yep.
I've got to say it was all my fault, the hiatus.
Oh, it always is.
No, it's completely unplanned. I had a bunch of work, but it wasn't really that. I had a bunch of personal stuff going on, so I had my a heap of stuff, but which meant I had to take a bit of a hiatus. I haven't been tweeting as much. I'm slowly getting back to it, but one of the weirder things that happened to me is I had so I had about 30 things happen to me, like family members being ill, all this sort of stuff, and then the weirdest one out of it all was my auntie passed away, and she'd been unwell for a very long time, unfortunately, and she passed away. But one thing that she left me, because I said I'd help her out, is she didn't have kids, she had a dog.
Right.
And it's a toy poodle. And so she said...
Can't wait to see the toy poodle behind the bar on the front bar.
That's right. So she said, well, the toy poodle's here as we're talking, and she said... I said no one could sort of take it in the, and so I said, I'll take it.
You'll take the dog.
Because it was a big thing on her mind, right? Like,
sure.
You know what people are like with dogs, especially ones that if you don't have kids and you got a dog, they tend to, so she was very much like have the, and so I said, look, I'll take it. She goes, oh, it's such a relief to me. So suddenly I'm this bloke, I've had this year of all this stuff happening, and then suddenly I've come out the other side and I'm a bloke with a toy poodle.
I was about to say, it's not just a dog, it's the toy poodle is the punchline in that whole story.
It's 6 years old and it's literally the size of, it is a kid. If people don't know what a toy poodle looks like, it's a small poodle and it never grows beyond the size of really a puppy, and it can fit in a handbag. It's a Kim Kardashian dog.
And you've done the right thing by your late great auntie by taking the dog. Yes. And the plus is if you don't like him, you can give him the green injection and not have to worry about it.
I don't know if I can. I don't know if that's honouring the... So I'm learning
the spirit of the thing.
So it's...
I've tried to explain to people on Twitter that we both had to go into and have operations at the end of the season, like all the players do.
No, it was all me on this one. I had a horrendous few months with various things happening. So
well, you've had to get the third book out. We should mention that up top.
Well, yeah, the third book. Well, the third book wasn't the problem. We took I had a couple of weeks off early in the year from the podcast finishing that, but that was all sort of away and at the printers. It's come out now. So this is Please Gamble Irresponsibly. So perfect Christmas thing.
Perfect Christmas.
And then I just had this avalanche of stuff. It was right in the middle of the finals too. People time things terribly.
Yeah.
They put no thought into my life.
Who'd have thought that your phone would start ringing during the finals?
Oh, it's amazing.
It's ridiculous. Speaking of which, and this is something I definitely don't want to dwell about, Richmond winning the flag again. It was a disappointing game as far as football matches and grand finals go.
Yeah.
But they were very bloody good.
Oh. Well, I had a hilarious grand final day. I started off at your event. You do
a grand final breakfast.
You do a grand final breakfast. So
at the Grand Hyatt.
At the Grand Hyatt. So we did that first. So that was a fun crowd. Because the thing I love about grand final days, you have... What time was that I was on? It was 8 something.
Yeah, it was about 8:30, 8:45.
In the morning. Yeah. And everyone is drinking heavily.
A couple of hundred people there, probably 85% blokes. Yeah. And everyone's got a stubby in their hand.
Yeah.
And they're there for a good time. So you were the first cab off the rank, and then we had, Troy Kinney. It was a very good morning.
Yeah.
But it is a good way to kick off the day.
Yeah, because I kicked off I then went and did a couple other gigs.
Yeah.
And then I did a gig with... at the AFL function, and had the surrealist experience because I was there with Dave Thornton, the comedian, and we were watching it, and we were watching the first quarter.
Yep.
And so we'd both had gigs beforehand at the ground, so we'd finish. So we thought, we can go and watch a game now and have a few drinks. Yeah. So we have a few drinks, and then that first quarter is just. For most of it, it seems like no one's going to score or do anything, and then the Giants get on. The Giants look like I think they kick a goal, and then Richmond come back and kick a couple, and right on the end siren, and you think, I hope the whole game's not like this.
Yeah.
By halfway through the second quarter, you were like, "Oh, this is over."
Yeah, game's over.
And even more so, when you watch a game at the ground,
Yeah.
but more so than even TV, you can sort of see the body language and the way that, like, you can just see the Giants.
You can see the whole ground and the patterns that are emerging and who's on top and what's happening in. And players running hard through the centre and defensive running.
Yeah.
When you're at the ground and you have a good look at it, quite often I reckon it's pretty easy to see that this is just going to be one-way traffic for
and
the
you
rest
can
of the
see
game.
where the game turns sometimes or not, but mainly you can sort of. So you got this sense, wasn't it? So we went down to this room where I'd had spoken, and so we were allowed back in there because I'd done a gig there, and it was free drinks.
There you go.
And so what else are you going to do during that game?
Yeah,
I mean, unless you're a Richmond fan, and most Richmond fans, like, you're not watching it for the spectacle anymore.
No,
It's done. Like, it's over. So we just stood at the window inside this room, just drinking.
Just guzzling beer.
Just guzzling beers. It was a great day, and but the best bit is about halfway through the third quarter, we're standing there, and this room had all these VIPs in it, right?
Oh, the AFL grand final function. It's literally a who's who of Australian
It's like,
society, not just the football world.
Yeah, so we're standing there, and who else but the Prime Minister comes up to Dave Thornton and I, and he knows Dave from the project.
Yeah.
Says, "Oh, hi, Dave." And he goes, I enjoyed your speech. I said, "Thank you. You've been polite because I don't want to keep drinking the drinks."
Yeah.
And he says he'd just flown back the night before from the UN.
Right.
And we said, he somehow that came up in conversation. And so he starts to give us a detailed rundown on how on the flight home he'd watched John Wick 3.
You got the Prime Minister of Australia.
So I should add to this. I won't speak for Dave, but I was well plastered.
You were lit by this stage,
because the thing about you get to the end of you do those gigs on grand final day, and at the end of the last one, you're done for the day, and also you're done for the season, and so there's this great sense of it's like getting out of finishing uni or finishing school.
It's like laid off your shoulders. I'm a bit like I never drink at grand final functions. Until it's finished. It's finished.
Because you're organising.
Yeah, I'm organising.
So once once it's over,
it's like, hey,
and this is like the season-ending thing.
Just give me a bottle of red and I'll scull it.
That's right. So sitting there, listening to the Prime Minister debate the fine points of John Wick 3.
He's been at the United Nations,
and I'm just going, this is a surreal experience. Anyway, he finally, he talked to us for a long time. He was just telling us about it. We were just watching the footy and drinking.
Did you get the feeling that nobody else wanted to talk to him?
I don't know.
That's why he came over to you two?
Yeah, I don't know what it was. So anyway, then finally he goes, I better go out and watch the last bit or something, the fourth quarter.
Because he knows nothing about footy.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, fair enough. He's a rugby league man. There's nothing wrong with that. But that is.
I've got another good rugby league story after this, Rob. So anyway, he then says,
they've had a good off-season.
So he says, "All right, boys, good to tell you. Have a nice day." And we say thanks. And we're like, there's all they don't call them secret security. There's protection service officers or whatever all around him.
Yeah.
So we go, "Oh, no worries." And then he walks out the door, and with a perfect timing, Dave turns to me and just goes, "I hate it when you try and watch the football and the Prime Minister won't stop bothering you." So we had that. It was just a surreal,
that's bizarre,
absolute surreal experience. So, but I did a rugby league gig. I did the Rugby League Players Association Awards in Sydney.
Right.
So this is like the Players Union.
This is after the season's over.
Yeah, they had all the top players and everything there, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, they send me a briefing note.
Yeah.
And it says, every briefing note you get for a speaking gig, this is, they'll say topics to avoid.
Yeah.
Now you can choose to not avoid them or not.
But
that's what they always say that, right? Yeah. Like they always once you're up there, what can they say? They just might never hire you.
So topics to avoid from the rugby. Was that like one of those 8-foot parchments that roll out?
Well, because I've had some really weird ones. Like I did a breast cancer network. Hawthorn, Melbourne had the Pink Lady
game. Yeah.
I hosted a function for that at the MCG last year. I did it for charity, and they were really nice people. But they said
on the briefing note said, please no jokes about breast cancer. And I said to the lady...
Geez, lucky you told me.
I was like, yeah, lucky you told me because I had 40 minutes on that. And you should hear my stuff on remission. It's hilarious. But anyway, I said to the lady, who was really nice actually, the whole people around that were good fun. I said, I said, are other cancers all right? And she laughed. And then I said, what I want to know is what made you have to put that on?
Yeah. Have you had a bad experience?
Yeah, I said, have you had a bad year? And she said, no. But I was like, because...
Oh, that Rodney Roode didn't go down too well the year before.
Yeah, who would have thought it was a terrible fit? So anyway, I had that, but the rugby league one was the best. They had written on theirs, and this is almost like poetry, it said, please do not mention any current court cases. And I thought, is this just 40 minutes of me on stage saying nothing?
What about past court cases?
Yeah, well, that's what I was like, define what... Because that day...
By the end of the day, there could be another upcoming court case.
Well, that day I did it.
Yeah.
I woke up that morning and I had it that night. And the storm in Bali where the players got the punch on had happened. So I was like, have they been charged yet? Is this technically a court case? So it was like absolutely bonkers.
Was that the only thing at the rugby league you were warned off chatting about?
Well, yeah, but I think so. But it was pretty broad.
Yeah, I was about to say it is pretty much all encompassing that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's pretty broad.
Yeah.
So there's all these weird ones that you get.
How did you go with all rugby league players?
It was fine. Like there's some gigs you do, so it wasn't like some gigs you do, and for whatever reason it's a barnstorming success, and others are like okay.
Yeah.
This one was in a theatre, and they were serving no alcohol.
Oh, to rugby league players at the end of the season,
and it had a feel of people were there because they had to be there and wanted out, and it was like 6 o'clock on a Monday night, and they wanted out of there pretty quick. Yeah. So it went fine, but it wasn't like a crowd where sometimes you'll do a crowd and it doesn't matter how good or bad you are, they're just into it.
Yeah.
And other times they just don't want to bar of you. And this sort of fell in between. I felt like I had to work really hard to elicit any sort of...
Yeah.
It wasn't a setup where people like... Sometimes you go to something, people are in the mood for a laugh and they're in a celebratory mood. Or this was like, it was all right, but it wasn't...
You weren't going to get...
bomb, but I didn't walk away.
You weren't going to get mobbed by the Prime Minister. With this one, put it that way.
I feel like I need to follow. I feel like I need to talk to him about John Wick 1 and 2 now because I've got his views on 3.
And did you say to him, is the UN? What's it like now without Boutros Ghali? Is it better? Is it worse?
So anyway, that was a fun. So that was a weird one.
So that was the footy season done and dusted, and we're recording this on a Wednesday. Tonight's the draft.
Oh, I love the draft.
I do love the draft, and isn't it good of the AFL? And I think they started it last year. Is stretching out the magnificent television spectacle that is the draft over 2 nights. It's like a mini series.
What I love is there's about the first 5 minutes of the top 10.
Yeah,
is. I would even say mildly interesting.
Yeah.
It's not really that interesting because, none of us know.
No.
Not even the experts know if anyone's going to be good. Like, they all pretend they know, but they don't. It's why they all write later on, if we were reordering the draft now stories.
Yeah.
So, like, you get excited because you've got, like, pick 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, and then they draft some kid and you go, I hear that's really good.
Yeah, no.
He looks a good kid because you've seen a YouTube clip.
Yeah. And all of them, they're 18 years old. They're all as fit as trout. They all look fantastic in their gear.
And their highlights are always good because no one puts together a clip of their lowlights.
I hear that was the time I kicked it out on the full from 20 metres out. That was like, I fumbled it on the boundary line and got cleaned up.
So there's none of that.
Yeah. So maybe if we do a show again next week, we can look at the draft wash up because this will be the thing in a couple of days.
Well, what's the thing? What's your prediction? There'll be how many times will someone say we're amazed that he was still available?
Yeah.
Like that's basically the whole.
Yeah, the head of recruiting at any one of the clubs doesn't matter. Well, how'd you go? Yeah. There'll be variations on that. We were just so glad that he was still there and available to us at that point.
Yeah.
We thought he would have gone much higher. This will be a bloke who's 28 years old. I picked 97.
What I'd love is someone to come out and say, We had our eye on 2 other players, but unfortunately other clubs took them.
Yeah.
So
He'll do.
he was the best of what was left.
And I often feel for the kids who this is their one shot at their dream, and they're still sitting there. And it comes to pick 77 and Greater Western Sydney Giants with pick. They pass on pick 87. So all these kids going, none of them are even going to take anyone anymore.
No, it's all like
it's over. It's back to the old.
Well,
boys.
and don't the Suns have both picked 1 and 2 anyway?
They've
so
got 1 and 2.
You know,
So they're going to
if there's
take
one
the 2
thing the
kids from
Suns
Carey.
need, it's more draft concessions because they've just shown how that works for them.
And I like the fact about the Suns too. Since this season finished, and it was a shocking season by them by any way you measure it. But since the season's ended, there's apparently been a complete sea change, not only at the footy club but within the AFL world in general, and all the players. Is that the exodus from the Gold Coast is now over.
Yeah.
No player ever wants to leave the Gold Coast ever again. In fact, they're all there for life. Ben King and Jack Lukosius, they've signed on for another 2 years. But,
They all do that though,
Yeah.
and then they hope to then at that point, like Lynch did that,
Yeah.
like that's what they all want to do.
Well, Ben King, he signed on for another 2 years, but it wouldn't surprise anyone that he's hoping he has a really good 2 years and continues to develop.
Yeah.
By which stage he'll be 22 years old and prime to come back to Melbourne on a nice big fat contract.
Well, it's not that the Suns can't retain players potentially by then. It's just if they're like they are now.
yeah,
I mean, people are quite happy. I mean, retention. A lot of retention works on success on the footy field.
Oh,
I mean,
of
they
course.
talk about all these other factors, but when the Brisbane were dominating,
yeah.
there weren't players fleeing there, and Sydney have
They
had huge retention
Had
problems.
no trouble
and
getting players up there.
Yeah, I mean, there is a bit of a factor of that, but
And so I said, when I was 18, I'd love to have gone and lived on the Gold Coast rather than say Adelaide, and get paid, $100,000 a year to do so.
well, I always think the funny thing is you never hear from the player that you always hear the homesick players.
Yeah.
You never hear of the players that don't want to go home because their family is there.
Exactly.
They're like, I'm quite happy to live in
When
Perth.
you're 18, you'd have lived anywhere rather than at home.
Well, funny watching, I know you're a big sports fan of some of the US sports and so am
Yeah.
I. You're watching the American football, especially NFL. They never talk of go home factor or anything.
no.
It's a different culture.
Yeah.
You go where you've got to go, even if it's,
They understand fully all the players.
Jacksonville.
Yeah, that it's a professional game, and this is, you're not going to be involved or playing for the rest of your working life. You might, a good player, you might get 8 or 10 years out of it. So
Yeah, that's
of that
right.
time, that window of opportunity, say,
Yes.
if they say I'm going to Pittsburgh, I'm going to Pittsburgh.
That's
That's the
right.
way it is.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not a huge.
There's no, I've got to get back to my one-horse town in the middle of Arizona, 'cause I'm homesick for the red dust and the ice epidemic.
I miss the ice epidemic. That would be I'd love the players saying that.
Yeah.
What do you really miss about it?
Yeah. Also, I'm really glad I got drafted by Baltimore because I hear it's the crystal meth capital of
I'm a
the
big
whole
fan of
eastern
it.
seaboard.
I loved watching The Wire. Don't you reckon a lot of them also, like in Australia, a lot of them want to come back to Melbourne because, they know if they come back here, the media opportunities and sponsorship
Yeah.
opportunities, like that's for some of them.
Yeah.
Some of them come because they want. I mean, Tom Lynch went to Richmond because he knew it was a real shot at winning a premiership.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the attraction. Like,
Of course.
if he thought he could have gone somewhere else, he probably would have, But it does shock me how much there is the go home factor in Australia.
Yeah. And it seems to be, maybe it's just because there's more media around these days and a lot more media commentary. But it seems to be more of a thing over the last 5 years, this go home factor.
Yeah.
And so I reckon 20 years ago, if they'd said, some kid wants to leave the West Coast Eagles and come to Melbourne because he's homesick, he would have just been laughed at.
What
So you
about, do you reckon back in
Crybaby.
the old days of the VFL,
Yeah.
you ever had people like players say, I want to leave Collingwood and go to Carlton because I'm homesick. I want to go back and live in Carlton.
Yeah.
I'm sick of it all the way.
I don't want to
over
go to
here.
Fitzroy. It has to be Carlton.
has to be
and I'm not going as far as Richmond.
Yeah. Do you reckon that happened? Like, I bet there were players that stayed at Geelong because they lived in Geelong back in those days.
That would make some sense, but yeah. Where else? You know?
The go home factor when you're the next suburb over.
Yeah, although if you were playing for Essendon, but you grew up in Hawthorn, you might want to go back to Hawthorn.
It's true.
Go to a leafy suburb, you know. But it is. You're right. The go home factor. It's very much an AFL thing these days.
Well, the draft I look forward to because some club, we all know that it'd be proclaimed that someone has single-handedly turned around their fortunes by 2 picks of 18-year-olds tonight.
And I like all this thing over the last couple of months where supporters of it all over social media go, look, so-and-so club has swapped pick 16 and pick 39 for pick 23 and a 4th round pick in 2021. That is a good deal. How would you know?
I think that's the confidence you need. You just have to have this certainty of whether it's a good pick.
Yeah, and already, I've seen supporters of numerous clubs, including our own, go, our recruiting people, they have no idea what they're doing. They haven't even had the drafts yet.
Well, I know, like that's what they do all the time.
Yeah.
And then and then someone goes, "I really hope we get this person," and you think, "I bet you haven't even watched this person play a full game."
Yeah, exactly. There's very few players that, unless they're a member of your immediate family or the junior club that you're involved with, you would never have seen these kids play.
No.
As you say, at most, a highlight reel on a TV show.
And even if you have, you haven't compared them to what else is out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there are, even the guys that go all the time to every game, and watch all those junior games, they get it wrong too. So, like, how any of the rest of us know?
And you don't know about any of these kids, how they're going to go against the big guys once they get in there. I mean, some kid, he's ready-made to take on Brodie Grundy.
Yeah.
But how do you know? Brodie Grundy would probably absolutely put him through the fence the first time he played,
But don't you think too, like, I look at someone like, Tom Boyd's the example of this, right? Obviously, when he got drafted number 1, he had all the skill set needed, and we saw in the grand final how good he can play, how well he can play. But then you can't factor in the fact that, he, what they now refer to it like, mental.
He had his struggles and
something. But I mean, there's also a factor where, and I don't know if this directly applies to Tom Boyd because it can have a lot of things, but it would have once been referred to as just like, didn't have the long-term desire.
Yeah.
There is that desire factor you can't, and that lack of desire might be due to depression or a heap of things that now we understand a little bit better than we once did. Yeah. But you can't know when you're drafting these players because there are some players, like you look at Dustin Martin or Joel Selwood.
Yeah.
They've just got this, they'd run through a brick wall to get the ball.
Yeah.
Like, you can just tell with some people, like especially yourself, like football's his whole life.
Yeah.
Like he just loves playing. He just wants to play it. He's just, and you can't tell that like at 18. Like they prize a lot of the physical stuff.
Yeah.
Not all clubs, but because I know some clubs that have told me that they very much won't. They don't draft on the physical talent bit as much as the mental one. They want the person that will tackle, go through with someone, get up again, and all that stuff.
And who are, model citizens or good guys or showed leadership material or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then Joel Selwood, as you say, the physicality. And then Dustin Martin too. I mean, he's the sort of guy you just, again, I like watching him play live rather than on TV when you can see where he runs and you think, if ever there was a natural footballer, it's a Dustin Martin. So he just knows where to go.
Well, Dane Swan was like that.
Yeah,
like,
Swan was the same.
He was like, he used to say he was nowhere near as fast as some of the other players or even he said as athletically skillful, but he had a nose for where the ball was going. He was a skilled...
It's one of those things, it's like when you coach junior players, you go, there's some things you can't teach. You can teach a kid to drop the ball right. You can teach them how to handball, but you can't teach them how to get it. And the ones who just know instinctively, that's what makes them good footballers and good athletes.
Well, it's even like
the same as any sport, really.
Yeah. But you don't hear about that. You hear about like all the stuff in the combine.
Yeah. Yeah, he's set the record for the vertical leap. That'll be handy.
But the AFL, they've been up to some other fun bits. We saw the story yesterday where they announced.
You're across this better than me, I think.
So the AFL decided, and these are the people that bought you AFLX and the score review system. They decided that they're looking at and seriously considering players being able to challenge scores like goals, like a score review. So if it's a goal and they think it's touched, the player can refer it.
This will be like an official challenge type.
Yeah, instead of having the umps having to convince the umps or the refs
now
or the umps.
I touched it. You know.
Yeah, but it's not up to the players. Like the umpire can go no, and it doesn't get challenged.
Yeah.
But the idea would be to put it in the players' hands. I just reckon, like, my problem with all this is my problem with the technology and everything is, one, it's not 100% perfect, but two, it slows down the game. Like and the game is already too long. Like, I love footy as much.
Gives them the opportunity to throw in another ad.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Like, but one, it will be abused because if you want to slow a team's momentum, or give yourself a bit of a rest, call for a challenge, even if you know you're going to lose it. Yeah. Like, I mean, what are they going to? You know, if you're going to use them up, unless there's a penalty
and why put more power in the hands of the players?
It just seems to me like I notice this a lot, and I know, like, you know, you and I go to the basketball occasionally, the NBL. You know, that is perfect. There's so many kids at the basketball NBL because it's over in, like, you know, in 2 hours. Possibly less. You're in and done and out.
Yeah, you've seen all the hoo-ha. You've had some fun, and you've seen the entire game.
Yeah, and it's not very stop-start. I know basketball in the last few minutes if there's lots of fouls, it can be. But you notice with footy, like, the thing I do like about footy is I like that it's long because it is like a marathon battle happening out there. And then, but the problem you have is you just. The stop-start nature was one thing we used to mock the Americans for the way their sports, especially American football, is so stop-start. Yeah. And we seem to be like going into that thing of like adding challenges, score reviews, all this sort of stuff. I don't think in any way, if you look at it as a whole and go, has this made the game better?
Yeah.
I don't think it has. I don't think and then the other thing the AFL have said is if we want the technology to do it really well, we have to invest a lot more money, and they don't really have that money. It's like tens of millions of dollars.
Well, they've got it. They just don't want to spend it.
Well, but I can understand that. Like,
but then in the next breath, they say, "Oh, but we're having an international rules series next year."
I mean, I would prefer they said all that. We're not going to bother with the technology. We've lived this much in our lives. This sport's been around forever. We had no problems. It doesn't always get it right, but more often than not, it gets it right. Yeah. And the technology, to me, is not making it that much better. You could argue it's getting some things right that once, but for all the way it affects the game, I'd prefer they said, and they're not going to do it 100% properly, they say. So if you're not going to do it 100% properly, don't take that money, put it in a grassroots. I couldn't give her, put it into
put it into junior footy or country footy
or whatever or something. Yeah. Like, that would be my preference.
I agree. And it seems to me this will be trying to cut down on balls that are touched off the boot virtually.
Yeah, which was not what it was brought in for originally anyway.
Yeah. So, but the balls that are touched off the boot, my theory is if it goes through for a goal, it should be a goal anyway. It's like cricket. A misfield that goes for 4 is still 4.
Yeah.
They don't stop it and bring it back and say, well, mate, you're only going to get one
run
for
gets taken off because it was touched.
Yeah. So,
Well, that is the other option. That is but that's a simpler thing and cheaper.
It's simpler and more sensible, which means they won't do it. And then on the other hand, 3 weeks ago, Steve Hocking comes out and says, the new 666 rule this year and the kick out rule has been really well received, but we're not going to tinker with the rules at all next year.
Yeah.
But by the way, we're thinking of introducing a players' challenge system.
Yeah.
When are they going to stop?
Then Brian Cook, the CEO of Geelong, came out and said this. He said, it's just tinkering fatigue. Like, they just the AFL just like their whole thing is let's let's tinker with things that aren't broken.
Yeah.
You know, if it isn't broken, let's tinker with it.
Well, let's break it and then fix it badly.
I mean, even all the rules. I mean, I can't believe this isn't made more of. That the AFL brought in probably the most rule changes in living memory to increase scoring, with the result of it being one of the lowest scoring seasons
Scores
ever.
have plummeted.
Like, this is an organisation. You kind of want them to say. You say to them, what would you like to do to fix scoring? And they tell you, and you go, well, let's do the complete opposite of that. You know, like
it's like the whole thing's been scripted by Joseph Heller. You know, it's catch-22. The opposite always works better.
Yeah, they've just not thought any of this through. It's been unbelievable. So, you know, I just find that this one is, to me, I don't know. It's not that I necessarily even like. If you're going to have score reviews, if players can call it instead of the umpires, I don't really care that much. It's not that big a change. My problem is with, if you look at it holistically, the whole thing of just, it used to be we knew the umpires were fallible. It would annoy us often. But if you actually simplify some of the rules, you could actually make the life easier
instead
for umpires.
Of making them more complex.
Yep. And you know what? We just all live knowing that it's a human game. And unless you're going, and because we're not going to, the AFL is not, and I don't think they should, for what it will cost, spend the money on the technology that would actually get it all 100% right. Well, don't be half pregnant. Yeah. Like either go all the way, which I don't think they actually should do, or don't. Like, but don't go this halfway one where it's a not very good technology.
Yeah.
A system that continually gets it wrong. You know, causes delays to the game and frustrations, makes the game longer. Like, there's just nothing.
Makes it harder for the umpires.
And how anticlimactic is it?
Yeah, that's one of the things I don't like about it. You know, as you say, it'll be every rule change they bring in for whatever reason, coaches are able to circumvent it somehow. They work out a way to get around it to work back to their advantage. Now, it will take about 8 minutes into the first quarter of the first game next year before, as you say, one of the players, or maybe it's the captain, will decide, geez, we're playing badly here. Let's slow things down a bit. Let's have a challenge. We're allowed, 3 challenges per quarter or whatever they
decide on.
And it will be used as a tactic, not as to get a better result or a more accurate result.
Yeah.
It'll be a tactic to slow down the game and upset their opponents.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't understand what's going to happen. Like, so a goal's kicked.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all the devil will be in the detail when the AFL tells how it would work. But how long does a player have, or is it only the captain or whatever, or can any player how long do they have after the goal's kicked or a point? So say a point's kicked and you think it's a goal, but the other team have grabbed it, played right out.
And have already played on.
Like, that's the stuff I don't get. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's all that stuff that's just going to be...
And speaking of which, playing on after a point's been kicked, do you reckon they should get rid of the goal square this year? It's completely... There are 3 lines on the field now that are completely superfluous.
Yeah, I know.
Unless they can now put a Toyota logo inside the square. But other than that, it's completely useless.
No, I know. It's like...
Why is it there?
Well, I think the only thing it's used for sometimes now is where they mark.
Yeah, if they mark it sort of within there, they get it shot
straight
right in front rather than on an angle.
That's about it, you know. I still don't really like that rule that much.
I don't mind it. I reckon it's worked okay. The 6-6 thing, 6-6-6 rule, I reckon, is grossly overstated as to the effects of it. Other than, as you say, for whatever reason, they probably haven't done enough analysis on it yet. Is that scoring has gone down?
Well, remember they did that heavy trial of one game between the 2 bottom sides in the VFL and said, "Oh, it's all work in a tree." Yeah. And you're like, really? That's your.
Yeah.
You know, these people that talk data and they're all data focused. Run a trial that not even the most ham-fisted
with the Box Hill versus Port Melbourne. You know?
Yeah, with two terrible teams that year, and they go, "Oh yeah, we're really thrilled with it." And you go, "Really?" Like, if you watch the lowest level of VFL, it is nothing like the 2 bottom sides. Yeah. It is nothing like AFL.
Yeah, no.
Like, it's
a different game.
You know, so totally bizarre.
Yeah.
And you've been watching the cricket?
Yeah, I did watch most of the first test. And lucky we weren't in Brisbane because it was obviously pretty hard to get a seat. there.
Well, no one was there.
Nobody went to the game at all.
Well, you got to admit it's Pakistan, so they're never going to draw.
Yeah.
But it was pretty poor, the game. Like, it was pretty... It was early on, you got it... Early on, it sounded like Pakistan were going to go all right, but that day one, that morning session on day one, they seemed to be like, this could be a okay game. But then it dropped off bloody quick.
They're going to have to come back pretty hard in the second test, Pakistan.
Well, and then Smith goes out for 4, so no one's wandering down to the Oval to see Smith score 100 or something. So you got none of that sort of stuff.
You can put your house on him making 100 in the second test.
You reckon? Yeah. Can I put your house on it?
Maybe not mine.
I mean, that's the bizarrest thing, that Steve Smith's the lowest scorer. Did you hear what he did afterwards?
No.
So... because Smith was you know how it finished early. So apparently, they win. Steve Smith, the lowest scorer in the Australian side. So he runs from the stadium back to the hotel as sort of, because he didn't get enough exercise during the test.
Penance, a bit of self-punishment.
And I thought, gee, if that's the case, David Warner should have swum back from the Ashes tour. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, sure. Hitchhiked through Asia to get home.
That's right. Like,
caught one of those buses around that edge of the Himalayas.
Oh yeah, because he's a weird unit, Smith.
Oh, he is. He's strong. I heard him say yesterday that
even
when he does make runs, he rewards himself with a block of Cadbury dairy milk. Times have changed.
It's not
from the Chapel era.
It would have been a slab. Would have been not of chocolate,
and a bottle of rum.
But it was an interesting first test, and Naseem Shah, the 16-year-old.
He's fairly handy. He's fairly quick for a 16-year-old.
People say, there was that thing going around. What were you doing at 16?
Yeah,
everyone said that. And I thought, I can't really remember back to when I was 16, but if Pakistan were as bad as they are now, I could have probably been playing for Pakistan.
You opened the batting with a seam.
But he was that was kind of interesting, being 16 and playing. But he sort of, there's a bit of controversy. I love the Indians and the Pakistanis, who don't always get along on a geopolitical level.
Yeah.
They the Indians have been accusing him of not being 16 but actually being 17. So there's been a lot of...
And you've got to remember both countries...
It's like birthers in the States.
And you've got to remember both countries have nuclear weapons.
Yeah. I know. I'd laugh if this was what it broke up. So there's all these Indians accusing him of being 17.
Right.
Which...
Would it make that big a deal?
I mean, yeah, it's not like they're saying he's actually 22.
Yeah.
Right? That would be the interesting one where, you sometimes... This happens in baseball occasionally, where you get a player from often a Latin American country, a Central American country, where there's been a lot of political upheaval with the civil wars and various things. So records of dates of birth have not been kept that accurately. And they do have ones where you find out the kid that everyone's saying is 16 is 22.
Yeah.
But that's not even the accusation here. The accusation here is, instead of 16 years and 9 months or whatever he is, he's really 17. You go, whatever.
The Indian bookie's holding all this money on the fact that he is 16.
Yeah. So then, but the best thing I saw was that one of the members of the Pakistan Board of Cricket came out, and his evidence that this is ridiculous is you just have to look at his face to be able to tell he's 16. And I thought, it's creepy if you reckon you can look at a 16 or 17-year-old and tell the difference.
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
Right. And, Indians say about the Pakistanis, they all look the same to me anyway.
That's what, but don't you think, once you get past a certain age too, anyone, I often find this, if I go to a bar or something and it's a young demographic, everyone looks, once you get to 40, everyone who's up to about the age of 25 looks like underage to you. It's funny how that just morphs very quickly.
And to them, you are invisible, which is handy as well.
You look like why is someone's dad here?
Yeah, exactly.
But it is absolutely so when they say you just have to look at his face to be able to tell he's 16, not 17. I'm like, what are you, nightclub security?
Yeah. I was in the bottle shop the other day, and there were two youngsters in front of me. They're buying their vodka slammers or whatever, and the guy behind the counter said, "You blokes got ID?" And they're used to it, and they're sure they pull it out and get the thing. And then I get up there with a slab, and I go, You aren't going to ask me the same question, are you? And he just got the,
Oh, he didn't even like.
nah, like, haven't heard that one before, mate. You know, $47
Considering you were spending $2,000, you'd think you would have been a bit nicer. Considering you've kept that bottle shop afloat
Yeah, exactly.
for a decade.
Yeah, mate, you'd be back at Centrelink if it wasn't for me.
So I do love that, like so that's the controversy. Is he 16 or 17?
Well, you know,
But I mean, it's not that big a difference, really.
No,
I mean,
you
the
wouldn't have
fact
thought
is
so. And he's pretty quick. He was bowling them through it, 150 Ks.
Yeah. I don't like their chances in Adelaide.
No.
I'm heading over for that test.
Are you?
Yeah, I can't wait. There's all the marquees
I've
out the
never
back
been
at
there.
Adelaide Oval.
Yeah, I've never been to the cricket at Adelaide Oval. Apparently it's fantastic.
Have you been since the upgrade
No.
for the footy? Even?
No, haven't.
It's the best stadium in Australia at the moment.
What about the one in Perth?
Oh, I love the one in Perth. Like, it's personal preference. Like, they're both. You're talking about. I mean, to me, the MCG is amazing for its size.
Yeah.
But if it's not full, it's pretty cavernous.
Yeah, it can
and
be.
the southern stand is very tired.
Yeah.
So to me, the two best in sort of they're just both very modern and new. Obviously, is Perth and Adelaide.
Yeah.
So they're the two best in terms of amenities and everything you'd want. I just prefer Adelaide Oval slightly.
Yeah.
Where the Perth Stadium is like a giant. It's like a smaller. It's a pure coliseum.
Yeah.
Unlike the MCG, it's completely all the same all the way around.
Yeah,
it doesn't have
a bit of a cauldron kind of.
It's a true cauldron.
outfit,
It's the loudest I've ever heard, and it's got every facility you could want. So it's an awesome stadium.
Yeah.
My preference why I like Adelaide just a little bit more is Adelaide's got this great character of they've kept the hill and the old scoreboard, and it's open to the so you can actually it's got scenically, and then inside and the design of it, it's beautifully designed. Even the function rooms are impressive.
Right.
Like it's just. But you're picking between. But they're the two best.
Yeah.
The MCG really needs a
Yeah,
massive.
must do that this next season. Get over, see a couple of games over there. I
They're
think.
both worth it. I'm even thinking of going over for round one in Perth for Melbourne
right,
Eagles.
Melbourne playing the Eagles.
I mean,
you're
but
brave.
you got to remember, I went to the prelim a few years ago, and I still haven't got over that. So. But I partly always want to go over because it's fun. Like, it's fun going and watching your side play interstate.
Yeah.
Seeing some of the. So but anyway, Adelaide for a test is great, and they have all the marquees out the back.
Yep.
So I'll be in there the whole time. I'm not conscious I'll see any footy, any cricket.
You won't be. Is it Perth? They have the pool sitting.
No,
over
that was
on it?
Brisbane. They had the pool. They didn't
Brisbane.
have it. They've replaced it this year.
What was
It was
with
just
empty seats? They replaced it with.
It was a deck.
Right.
Called the Something Social, and and you could. It was $100 entry, and anyone could get in there.
Right.
Unless it was sold out. So it wasn't and they described it as the bird cage of cricket.
The birdcage of Brisbane. Comparing it to the birdcage at Flemington.
Yeah.
And wasn't it good to see an Australian horse win the Melbourne Cup?
I did like when that guy got lambasted for being racist towards horses.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus. Like, is there no... Like, there's just no... I mean, this is where it does get... There's those times where I can be pretty PC at times, but even that one I was like, really?
Yeah.
Like, the guy just said he was glad Australia had bred the winning horse.
Yeah.
He wasn't going like, because all these foreign horses are like...
Yeah. Those dirty European horses.
Coming in here and stealing our Australian horses' jobs. That wasn't his point.
And don't get me started on those ones from Dubai.
The thing that bothered me is there's so much real racism in the world that you can pick to get angry about that you don't need to enter into the equine world to find outrage. Like, it's like, let's find a new angle.
Find me an offended horse. And I'll take you seriously.
We all know what a history of racism horses have towards each other. It's just bizarre, So that was did you go to any of the races?
No, I didn't go to any this year. Nearly went on Derby Day, and then the weather was so crap. Let's just watch it on telly. But I did go to the Royal Melbourne Show, and this was follow on to that thing on the ABC, and went to the shooting gallery there, and they had real former racehorses to aim at.
What, to shoot? What do you mean there's a shooting? Jesus. Oh, you're joking? I thought for a second you were serious.
I didn't deliver that
You
very
delivered
well at
that
all.
so seriously. I was like, because I'm thinking to myself, it is an agricultural thing. It's like this, have you just broken a massive story?
$50, you can take 6 pot shots.
At a retired racehorse. Gee.
Actually, not a bad idea.
Actually, there's an idea.
There's some money
Come
to be
on,
made
kids,
there.
get on down.
Did you get an invite last week to Judd Chella?
Oh, Judd Chella. We've got to talk about Judd Chella.
Yeah.
No, you'd be surprised when I didn't.
Yeah.
So
So this was the housewarming party for Chris and Beck Judd's new house.
Yeah.
And
they dressed it up like it was Coachella. Everyone got
Coachella
dressed.
in the
and
States.
they had my favourite bit, and it made me think naturally of you and your parties, they had a glitter bar where you could apply glitter to yourself. I thought, gee, Serge would be all over that.
well, next year I'm going to have Parachella.
To get Parachella. But, I mean, it just... It was. I thought it was just weird. Like, but I don't really care. Who cares? Like, it's the Judd.
Party in your own house. You do what you like.
The interest in the Judds, to me, is just I don't understand it at all. It's not that I necessarily. It's not that I just don't find them that interesting.
No, I don't.
Like,
either.
it's not that I even. It's not like I dislike them or anything. They're just, to me, if you said, what do you think of the Judds, I'd go, nothing. I don't think about
It's
it.
like the Herald Sun's obsession with Jimmy Bartell and his ex-wife Nadia. I mean, how many stories did they get out of that? And
Not enough.
page one.
I feel like we've not, but that was like, when you boil that down, it's like, good-looking footballer cheats on wife.
Yeah.
And you go, yeah. This is it's the most believable story. There is no shock value in this story. Like, everyone's like, I can't believe this. You go, really?
Yeah.
Like, Jimmy Bartell wasn't faithful.
Exactly.
This is shocking to you, is it? And people were like, oh, I can't believe it. And it reminds me of that great Chris Rock quote, men are only as faithful as their options. And you've got to admit, Jimmy would add a lot of options.
Well, AFL footballers have plenty of options and always have and probably always will.
But you'd think Jimmy was the first. I'm not condoning what he did, right? I don't know all the facts either.
Yeah, who knows what the facts are?
Maybe, but at the same time, like, I'm not shocked by it.
No.
The fact that this
and I
one
don't
was
care
singled,
that much.
And I don't care that much, And I liked when they were saying, like, Nadia was brave because she went to the races. It's like, what?
Get back on the horse to mix a few metaphors,
But were you upset you didn't get invited to Judd Chella?
Given that I've never met either of them, it probably wasn't that much of a shock.
Did it look like a party you'd have wanted to go to?
No, it didn't. Well,
it didn't look that busy or fun.
No.
Like, maybe we didn't see the photos that were exciting, and maybe it was amazing. But to me, it just didn't look. It looked like it just didn't look that interesting. Like,
it looked like just a dodgy adults dress-up party when you got Luke Darcy in a leather cowboy hat. Which, to answer your question, no, I'm glad I didn't go. And you reckon the music would have been ordinary too? They would have thought they were being cutting edge.
Yeah.
And it would have been, David Guetta's, fourth album or something,
Just on repeat.
Yeah, just on repeat.
Off an old iPod. It's the whole thing. I don't know, like, it just shows some people would have more money than they really.
Yeah, I mean, you could have gone down to Juddy's man cave and looked at framed photos of him in a Carlton jumper. But, I can see that anywhere, really.
I can't say I was. To me, it looked like somewhere where you'd have to take me hostage to go to.
And it was sort of, I'd stand there, get too drunk, get obnoxious, but then walk out and go, geez, wait till the podcast next week. Have I got some stories here?
We should do a rival one next year.
Yeah, we should.
But just do it the complete opposite of what that was. Like, instead of just come in your jeans and your t-shirt.
Yeah.
Here's a few buckets of Corona.
Yeah. I've got to go to a mate's 50th.
Spinning some chisel.
Yeah. And at 2 a.m, we'll all sing on K-San together, arm in arm. Which is what will happen. I've got to go to a mate's 50th on Saturday night, and been told that they're having a Marvel party, so you've got to come dressed as a superhero.
What is it with adults
or
and dressing up?
just a touch of Marvel about you. But as I quite pointedly write out to his wife, I won't be wearing any Marvel gear because I look enough like Chris Hemsworth as it is without having to, gild the lily.
It is eerily, it's eerie, the similarities. If I had $1 for every time we were stopped in the street, you signing a Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. And I'll say, look, I'm serious. Talk to my mate, my brother Liam.
The less successful there's another Hemsworth, the one that is in Westworld, and no one knows who he is.
Is there a third Westworld?
There's a third.
Oh, they're becoming like the Daddos.
They just run them off. There's a production line.
He's built a little, room in his new house in Byron Bay that's just churning out clones
of the Hemsworths.
Yeah.
It's our greatest export market. We export more Hemsworths than anything else.
Exactly.
Well, you mentioned the international rules is back on.
Yeah.
They're going to Ireland with another stop off in New York.
Yeah, they're having and do you reckon, won't that be a junket for the AFL staff?
That's all it is.
Yeah.
And I've said this before. I don't have a problem if the AFL actually came out and admitted it's a junket for the 25 best players in the comp every year because we don't have international thing. But the idea that this is like an important sporting event or anything like that, it's just, it doesn't advance the game one iota.
No, not at all. And, as they say, the players are thrilled to represent their country. Well, not really.
No, they just want to get on the
exactly.
go out drinking with all their mates.
Yeah. And they've got a free trip to New York.
Well, someone says to you, we'll take you to New York with a bunch of people. Yeah. And then we'll take you to Ireland.
Yeah.
Do you want to go on that trip? Everyone's like, yeah, I'll go on that trip.
Best end of season trip of all time.
Yeah. It's these players loved AFLX.
Yeah.
Because they'd all got together, hung out, had fun.
And they all got paid $15,000 extra to do it,
Yeah, but the main thing apparently what they all liked about AFLX with the people I spoke to was they all got to hang out together.
Yeah.
With people from other clubs, people they knew, that was the fun for them.
Yeah.
That was why they said, we love doing it, not because it had any intrinsic
relevance
value to the growth of Australian rules football.
And the thing with the international rules, again, not being able to read the room too well, the AFL, they announce it literally 1 hour after they've announced that they're axing the country football leagues championship. Which were a big thing in the country leagues.
Yeah.
And have been for many years. But they're axing them to save money. But by the way, we're all going to Ireland.
Where do they think the talent's going to come from down the track?
Well, they seem to have worked out. I mean, Jake Niall wrote a good piece in The Age on the weekend about how the APS schools now supply 26 to 30% of all draftees.
Key private schools in Melbourne.
Yeah, the sort of big 11 private schools.
But that's hopeless. That's not a good stat. That's like in that.
Well, not that long ago, the private schools, it would have been 5% maximum.
Yeah, they were a joke compared to others.
Yeah, and how often would you hear that this gun kid, where's he from? He's from Tatura, or he's from the Mallee, from some little one-horse town in the Mallee.
Yeah.
And isn't it great? He's fantastic. He's come through the country system, and now he's playing for Collingwood or somewhere.
Yeah.
But now it's all, and you'll hear this at everything. He's a kid from Carey, so-and-so. Cyril Rioli, who was on a scholarship to Scotch. That's the new breeding ground for players, and even less so through the country leagues now, because that's where they're always representative matches, whether it's the Goulburn Valley League against the Ovens and Murray League. But the good players for all the clubs, this was their chance to strut their stuff in front of recruiters when they're representing their comp.
But the problem with it is, rugby union has the problem because they've isolated themselves within private schools.
Yeah.
So, it's a terrible model to follow.
Yeah.
Even if it's unthinking, it's happened. But secondly, the thing I think about footy is it's a community building thing. It builds communities around it. And it engages people and gives them something to do and all this sort of stuff. And the AFL is meant to be the governing body of football,
Australian
football, and are meant to be. And the big reason they get their tax exemption is because they're a community-based organisation, and it's got to happen at some point. I just keep waiting for it to happen. one day a politician's going to say, why are we giving you these tax benefits when you're not pouring it into,
Please show us what benefit you are to any community.
Yeah, we don't think you're as much of a benefit as you once were. Like, this is where I find it interesting. And that's where, like, I think, you and I have bagged because it rightly deserved it, but I don't have a problem with AFLX per se, or even the international rules on its own. Like, I can see why some of them have a rationale, but the trick of running any organisation is it's not prioritising good ideas over bad ideas. It's picking good ideas over other good ideas, because there's often lots of good ideas, and that's what prioritising is. It's going, yes, we could do 10. These are 10 great ideas, but we can't deliver on all 10. So, and for me, for the AFL, when I look at things like Ireland, the international rules, or AFLX and some of these other things, I'm like, this is not the priorities for your organisation. Like, these is taking, it's not that they maybe don't have worthy elements to it. It's taking away from the focus on growing the sport, grassroots. I mean, we haven't locked down. If you're a pure Australian rules head and just care about Australian rules, you go, we haven't locked down. We've had trouble in Tasmania. We've had trouble in a lot of Victoria. We haven't locked down Greater Western Sydney or Sydney itself. We've nowhere in Queensland, New South Wales overall. Like, we're getting there, so like, we're getting there slowly. But that's like, this is where the money and all the focus should be going. It just worries me when the organisation seems to be more interested in like constant tinkering and junkets and stupid ideas like AFLX. That's the message it sells to the community, that it's just not focused. And sometimes some politician's going to say, no, well, you don't get your tax exemption if you're pouring all the money into this stupid nonsense.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more.
It's bizarre.
It is.
End of rant.
End of rant. Well, we're going to have to discover a couple of new rants for next week.
I'll be happy next week, because Melbourne will have drafted their saviour at pick 3, and it'll all be fixed.
And number 10, they're going for that another Pickett in the system.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And people are thrilled to get him, and you're like, well, we don't know what he's going to be. Yeah. So,
I mean, his highlights look pretty good, but they all do, as we said.
I'd love to see someone put together their lowlights.
Yeah.
And just change the completely around. I would hate to see. So even if you go through all our podcasts, you could get almost 2 minutes of highlights out of that. Well, it's good to be back.
It is.
And we will definitely be back next week.
Yeah, we're back in town now. Well, I'm through
the other side.
You've had the shoulder Rico, and
I've had everything.
And I've got to tell you, now we're back from the inside here. Titus is training the house down.
I've already seen the Max Gawn is already back at pre-season about 3 weeks ago story. That sort of set it off. I was like, well, there you go. Yeah. And I think I laughed about that is I was like, I was never worried about Max Gawn. Yeah. He was not the player he was not the player that I was worried about.
Are there any players who aren't in their best shape ever or training the house down?
Well, it's been a while, hasn't it, since we've had the so-and-so showed up in terrible
nick.
Yeah. I do enjoy those stories.
I'll tell you what, Stephen Maybetter wouldn't.
He got it a bit, but that was only after he sort of became injured. Then they started to run.
But he wouldn't want to turn up for this pre-season carrying a few kgs.
No, there's no excuse for these guys. No.
Like Jesse Hogan crashed his car in Freo.
I meant to say, he must have been going at a fair clip to flip it.
Because, I saw that in the news. It was sort of a suburban street. It wasn't on a freeway or anything.
Yeah, and he flipped it. I don't think he flipped it over and over, but it went up on its side.
Yeah.
Maybe Buddy Franklin taught him to drive.
He's had a rough trot, old Hogs, but, maybe it was his crook foot.
That's right.
He got stuck on the.
That would have been smart of him to say I had a spasm in my crook foot. It's happened to the best of us. On that note, we'll be back next week.
We're indeed.
Very thrilled to be back. And thank you for anyone who is still listening and has given us some patience. I do appreciate it. We'll see you then.